and then decide on when to use it. I mean, imagine a world where you had a bunch of, I'm not going to name firms, but a bunch of smaller firms start producing their own national defense services and start taking national defense into their own hands. It would be yeah, it'd be a good movie. Not a good movie, but it might make The Expendables 3 look like a peaceful flick. All right, so that's the one point. The other thing is driver's licenses, right? Why does the government issue, is the only person, the only entity that's allowed to issue driver's license, is we want a non-corruptible, right, system where we enforce a certain set of common standards within a state, right? In some countries it's even across states, depending on whether it's federal or state level organizations. So it's very, very hard to corrupt the driver's license process, and we're not always sure that if we gave this to private firms that there wouldn't be ways for these firms to corrupt that. There are, other areas, for example, if you're thinking about local security provision, we have local police departments, but there's also a private industry that provides essentially the same services, right? There's neighborhood security companies, there's companies that come to your neighborhood and watch it on top of the police sector. So if a certain area in California, a certain county provides a certain amount of police protection, I live in Contra Costa County, and I don't think the level of police protection provided by the local government is good enough, I'm willing to pay more, I may actually engage in hiring somebody private to increase the level of security. But this relates much to the government's role in public goods provision, which we'll talk about in 2 lectures. Okay, so how do you regulate monopolies? You essentially say you may not act as a monopolist. And if we find that you act as a monopolist or you exercise detectable amounts of market power, right, doesn't necessarily have a monopoly, it could be an oligopoly, for example, we punish you. So these are so-called antitrust laws where we prohibit single firms from acting as monopolies or groups of firms colluding and acting as a single entity, right? I don't necessarily need a single firm to produce the entire market output. If I have a limited number of firms producing market output and they meet in Hawaii at a golf course and they talk about, what should the price of lysine be today, and then they all charge the same price, what price are they going to arrive at if they produce the entire market? The monopoly price, right? So if a small number of firms can collude, figure out what the optimal price would be, that would be the monopoly price, and charge that and restrict quantity at suboptimal levels, that's just as bad as having a single firm act as a monopolist. There's an amazing book, I hear there's a movie with Matt Damon too, called The Informant. It's a little bit long, and it speaks about the Archer Daniel Midlands, whatever they're called, right? Is that ADM? The lysine price fixing scandal. It's the only book about economics ever that's also entertaining. So if you need some reading over the summer, so basically the FBI got an informant into ADM and its buddies trying to figure out whether they were fixing the price for something called lysine, and there's just these crazy scenes about how these guys come up with the price fixing, and then ultimately, I won't steal the punchline here, but the way the book ends is just, it's wonderful. It's well written, well worth reading. I haven't seen the movie. Books are always better than movies. Okay, so we have antitrust laws. The government spends a ton of money on really good lawyers and really good economists trying to figure out whether companies are exercising market powers or colluding, right? So this is a very, very active industry where people like me sometimes get hired to figure out whether firms are doing bad things. You could simply say monopolies may not exist and trust that firms follow that directive. With the amount of money at stake in some industries, just telling firms to not do something, if the rewards are really, really big and the probability of you being detected as exercising market power, there's a trade-off here, right? So for some firms, it may be rational to simply break the rule and exercise some market power, even though it's outlawed. The third way of doing it is you figure out what the optimal price and quantity are, and you just force the industry to charge that price and produce that quantity, right? So we do a mixture of both. We outlaw monopolies, so significant antitrust laws, and we also do this here for natural monopolies, where we tell firms what price they get to charge and not above that. But regulating monopolies is a really, really tricky thing. Simply, if there's a pile of money to be had somewhere, people will try to get it, right? It's really that simple. And if the pile of money is big enough, people will do a great number of things in order to get at that pile of money. And that will unfortunately always be the case. Maybe not unfortunately, but okay. So that was market failure number 1. Market failure number 1, monopoly. All right. Market failure number 2 we're going to look at is a type of monopoly. It is my favorite model in all of economics, and it takes up all of 3 slides, or 4 slides. It's called monopolistic competition. So what we said is market structures depend on, whether firms get to enter and exit, how many firms there are in a market, and whether they all produce the same good, right? So for a perfectly competitive market, there's free entry and exit, there's a large number of firms, and the product is the same. Now, monopolistic competition is one where you have free entry and exit, just like in perfect competition. You have a large number of firms, but individual firms get to differentiate their products slightly, right? What products are differentiated? Toothpaste. I've got you prepped for this one. Everything, right? So if I did a blind walking test and I put a pair of Nike sneakers and Asics sneakers and New Balance sneakers on your feet, unless you're on an athletic team, you're probably not going to be able with 100% confidence going to tell the difference without seeing the logo on the sneaker. I would do that test with you in class, but that would be a really expensive experiment to run. I should ask Zappos whether they'd let me do it. But the point here is firms try and differentiate their product from their competitor's product, and all they need to be able to do is to make you believe that their product is different from their competitors. It doesn't need to be different. They just need you to believe that it's different, right? Have you ever had a headache and taken a generic Advil versus the Advil? Sure, there's some people who swear that Advil will take away my headache and the generics just don't work for me. Down to the last little chemical molecule, the 2 compounds are the exact same, right? One's got a little bit of a sugar coating around it, so it tastes better. The other one goes down a little bit more not so nicely. But other than that, it's the same product. Sorry, if anybody from Advil is in the room, I'm just making that up, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Toothpaste. Can you tell that Colgate baking soda gel with the US flag imprinted on it for the Olympics really does a better job at cleaning your teeth than Tom's of Maine? You can't tell, right? It's maybe in 80 years, but there's so many other horrible things you do to your teeth that you can't really tease out that signal from the noise. So firms engage in a complete mad race of product differentiation in order to gain rents, and I will tell you how that works. Have you bought a yogurt lately? Tell them I said hi. Picking up the cell phone in class, come on. Yeah, whatever. Okay. So monopolistic competition, how does it work? So what you've got is you've got a firm that produces something that a lot of people use, right? There's free entry and exit into the market for it. Let's use toothpaste. Everybody hopefully uses toothpaste or baking soda directly. It's up to you, but that's hardcore. So lots of people use it. Free entry and exit. There's a lot of firms producing it, but you can differentiate your product from your competitors as much as you want, right? You can put it in a different color box. You can make the flavor different. You can make the texture different. You can vary the package size, how it stands up versus whether it lies down, and so on. So different types of differentiation. So the big difference between that firm and the monopolist is pretty simple. The monopolist has no close substitutes, right? There's no close substitute for a real diamond. However, there are thousands of substitutes for your favorite brand of toothpaste. The degree of substitutability, as we'll see in a second, is going to determine how big the rents are a firm's going to be able to earn. But there are close substitutes. So let's draw this awesome picture. This is so awesome. Did I say how awesome it is yet? Because it really is. Max, you're getting more pathetic by the day. I know. I'm joking. I don't really believe that. But thank you for the compassion. Okay, here we go. Let's think of a firm whose average cost curve looks like that. Its marginal cost curve looks like that. And then the demand curve it faces looks like this. Why do you not want to draw the demand curve? Not great, but better. This is my demand curve, all right? Where does this firm produce? Not where marginal cost equals demand. The firm's a monopolist over its sparkly gel toothpaste that, I can come up with lots of jokes, but I won't even try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So marginal revenue goes here. This is marginal revenue. So the firm sets marginal revenue equal to marginal cost, produces here, and charges the high price by just going up to the demand curve. So this is the quantity it produces. It sets marginal cost equal to marginal revenue, which happens here a little bit below average cost, but it charges the price that people are willing to pay. So this is P star. This is the quantity it produces. It clearly makes positive profits here. Price is higher than average cost at that quantity. That firm's happy. So let's think about this in the real world, okay? Go back to the 1980s. T-7 for you guys. So the point here is in the 1970s in Germany, right near the East German border where I grew up, all toothpaste was sort of this like white, flowery, mint-flavored stuff. And everybody made their own disgusting mint-flavored stuff that tasted like plaster of Paris, mint-flavored, all right? Kids loved it, which explains my dental health. But the point is Colgate entered the market, and I remember this to this day. I remember the supermarket I was at with my mom, and I looked at the shelf, and there was the first gel toothpaste. I thought my head was going to explode. Colgate had come out with a mint-flavored toothpaste, same crappy taste as all the other ones, but it was see-through and light blue. I was jumping up and down, not at the candy aisle, but at the toothpaste aisle, screaming, "Must have this," in German, all right? So mom bought it, and it was great, and so on. Every other kid on the block also wanted the toothpaste. Colgate that year made a killing with gel-flavored toothpaste. They still make a killing with gel toothpaste, all right? So what do you think happened at Crest? They didn't have a gel-flavored, gel-type toothpaste. They looked at Colgate's annual report, and they said, holy cow, these guys made $1 bazillion with gel-flavored toothpaste. What are we going to do? Come on, you know what you're going to do. You're going to make Crest Gel. And guess what? Crest Gel is 20% more effective at fighting gingivitis than our closest competitor, who we're not allowed to name because that's illegal, right? So Crest comes out with a gel-flavored toothpaste. And for those people who used Crest before, but are now using Colgate because they like gel more than the Crest brand, they go to the supermarket to buy their toothpaste, and they're like, oh, finally, Crest has come out with a gel. I can finally get a product that matches my brand preference, because I'm just more of a Crest kind of guy, right? But it also is gel, which is important to me. So what happens to some of the people who were buying the Colgate branded gel toothpaste? They're going to buy the Crest brand, right? So what happens to the demand for Colgate's gel toothpaste? Shifts in, right? Third period, what happens? Toms of Maine, right? They're stepping out of their cabins. They're doing their little morning stretch. They're getting the newspaper. They're like, whoa. These guys are making a killing with gel toothpaste. Can we come up with some sort of algae-based process that allows us to come up with organic gel toothpaste? And they figure it out, right? They go on the market, and all the people like me, who are forced to shop at Whole Foods by someone in their household, go and buy their Toms of Maine gel-flavored product. What does that do to Colgate's demand for gel-flavored? It's not gel-flavored, gel toothpaste. Shifts in again, right? So ultimately what happens is other firms see that their competitors are making rents, are making positive profits, right? Price above average cost right here. And they're going to get into the market and come up with a differentiated product, but which steals away some of the rents from their competitors. So this goes on until we get to this point. So let me try and draw the exact same average cost curve. Okay, that starts here, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 1, 2, roughly here, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is at. So let me try and draw the same average cost curve. That's still not the same average cost curve. Let's try that again. Roughly the same average cost curve. That looks better. Roughly the same marginal cost curve. It's supposed to be identical. Cooperate. Oh. This here's marginal cost. Okay, these are supposed to be the same marginal and average cost curves. And what I'm going to show you now, this is really, okay, this is tricky. Whew. Okay, let's see if this works. Don't draw this yet. Drawing this live is nearly impossible. Ooh, this is going to work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5. So we are at this point. This is marginal revenue. Okay, this here is demand. This here is marginal revenue. I'm talking to myself. Let me tell you what I'm doing here. Okay? This is the firm's average and marginal cost curve. These are the costs to Colgate of producing gel-flavored toothpaste. They're not changing. They're the same over time. Let's assume away technological progress and all this other good stuff. So a couple of periods go by, and all these other producers come up with gel-flavored toothpaste, so the demand for Colgate's gel-flavored product shifts in. What I'm arguing is that that demand shifts in really drastically, turns even a little bit demand, becomes more price elastic, and shifts in quite a bit. It still is the monopolist over gel-flavored toothpaste, so it's going to set its marginal revenue, which is this curve here, same intercept as the new demand curve, twice the slope. It's going to set marginal revenue equal to marginal cost and produce wherever demand is at that output level. So marginal cost equal to marginal revenue right here. So this here is QM, and it's going to charge this price right here. Right? Marginal revenue equals marginal cost and sets price at wherever the demand curve comes down at that quantity. Now before, right, when it first came out with the toothpaste, it had an average cost of this much. Right? This is the average cost at QM. So its total profits are price over average cost over the range of production. This here are the profits in that first period. Right? Price is much higher than average cost. Now that this has gone on for a couple of periods, price here at this point, is it above? Is it below average cost? Neither. Is it exactly at average cost? Right? What's going on here? Marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. Right? That determines the output level. And the way I drew it, I can't believe I actually made this work out. I'm so proud of myself. If I go up and I charge whatever the people are willing to pay here, P star, that's also the point where average cost is exactly tangent to the demand curve right here. So at this point right here, if I had a drum roll, I would play it, but I don't. If you have an app with a drum roll, please do play it. Price is equal to average cost. This, of course, means profits are 0. Okay? So what happens with this monopolistic competition model is really simple, even though the picture is really, really hard, is firms innovate, come up with a new, really differentiated product, lots of customers start buying it, that firm earns lots of rents, but as time goes by, the other firms are going to essentially copy what this firm has done, but differentiate slightly along other dimensions and steal away demand from that initial innovative firm. So demand shifts in, maybe even rotates a little bit. And this keeps on going until we get to this point, where the innovative firm sets marginal revenue equal to marginal cost, and the price it gets for it is exactly equal to average cost. If demand shifts in any further, firm shuts down, right? Doesn't operate. If demand stays right here, firm produces this product indefinitely or is indifferent between producing it or not. Why would firms, other firms that look at this, not try and differentiate or enter this market with their own version of this product? So if you're at a bar, right? Your buddy's like, I'm in a market, I used to make a ton of money on this product, but now all my competitors went in and the market is so well filled out with products in this area, I'm making 0 economic profit. Your reaction isn't going to be like, I'm going to jump into this market, I'm going to add some product, and I'm also going to make 0 profits, right? So your incentives to actually enter this market here are 0. So if you enter here, you're not paying attention, right? So the point is this will keep on going until this firm makes 0 profit, and what happens then? Have you seen what's happened in the toothpaste market? Yeah. That's right. So Colgate's going to hire focus groups and toothpaste engineers and, I don't know, hipsters, and they're going to come up with a hipster-branded toothpaste that tastes like Bloody Marys. I don't know, right? But the point here is, I don't even know if Bloody Marys are a hipster drink anymore. It seems to be the airline drink of choice these days. But the point here is, you just differentiate away in different directions. So do we see this differentiation stop? Just occasionally, this is like biologists go to the Amazon to study stuff. I go to Safeway, right? I check out what's going on the yogurt shelf, the toothpaste shelf, and all the other shelves. The amount of product differentiation that keeps on happening is absolutely astonishing to me. Yes, with a nice T-shirt.
You mentioned these firms that try to differentiate the products or raise the prices, but not like the Walgreens brand of something where they're trying to use the same active ingredient, but they try to lower price.
So your product differentiation there is going to be something that's essentially a perfect substitute for a name brand company, and you're eating into Advil's product differentiated product. So you're the other guy in some sense. You're coming up with a differentiated product where you think you can sell something at a slight markup, right? You're selling it at a lower price, which is a substitute for I forget who produces Advil, but for that firm's product, right? And you're going to try and take away demand from Advil and shift it towards your own product, and they're not going to make as big of a profit on that product, right? The margins are slimmer, but there's some margin there. But the goal, what I want you to think about here is the Advil, right? The Advil is the first mover here. They come up with an anti-inflammatory drug, which is a competitor to Tylenol or aspirin, right? They're different drugs. So then they come out, they have huge rents, and there's actually a little bit of a, let's assume the patent has expired, then other firms are going to come in and come up with their different version of anti-inflammatory drug to eat away at Advil's market share, all while still trying to actively make some rents. But at some point, there's no more room for entry, and that's usually the room when some big player comes in and sells a generic with a really, really tiny accounting margin, which in economic terms is probably exactly that 0 profit point, and that's where you go. Why does Walgreens do it? Right? They sell a lot of painkiller, right? So if they make a penny on 5 million or 10 million of these bottles sold every week or a dime, that's a lot of profit. So by pure volume, it may make sense for them to come up with a product that just has a very small margin simply by the amount of volumes they can move. But this already moves into a territory which I know absolutely nothing about, which is marketing, right? So in the business school, you learn a lot about how to market and how to differentiate your product and how to get people to buy what it is you do. Here, all I'm saying is that the marketers come up with products that more closely match individuals' preferences, which are heterogeneous, right? And this will continue until at some point there's 0 profits to be earned in that specific segment of the market. Question?
Can you show us lines of failure? Because it seems like in the
That's the next point. Excellent question. So thank you for nudging me and saying, Max, move on and tell me why this is a failure. You said market failure. Market failure means if I leave this